throwback platform emulating games like Commander Keen and the 2D Duke Nukems. Rad Rogers follows the Rise of the Triad reboot and Bombshell as one of Interceptor Entertainment's attempts to bring back the spirit of classic PC gaming. And for the first hour or two, I was on board for Rad Rogers. The opening was embarrassing to watch, but the platforming and the gunplay had enough to them to make running around a level and collecting all the trinkets entertaining. But before the first world was even done, Rad Rogers had wore out its welcome. The main culprit is the tone. Rad Rogers is constant in its attempts to pander to nostalgia with a barrage of tired references, layered with self-satisfied amusement of being a cartoon with cuss words. These jokes are completely contextless, don't have a unifying theme, and don't even know what set of games they're nostalgic for. It's just the same tired, "it's dangerous to go alone" quotes and awkward fourth wall breaking jokes. It doesn't wink at the player so much as it grabs the camera and shouts, "I know I'm a video game!" And because it's so keen to point out that it's a game, it's easy to start recognizing its failures as one. Where the PC platformers it emulates often use non-linear design and collectibles to add density to a smaller space, Rad Rogers quickly introduces massive stages that feel more like containers for trinkets than engaging spaces in their own right. Worse, it makes certain collectibles mandatory for completing stages, forcing me to traverse the entire map, as if it knew exploration wasn't rewarding on its own. On top of that, there are these mind-numbing pixel-verse puzzles, where you restore parts of the stage because the lazy devs didn't bother to finish it. These puzzles manage to somehow poorly communicate the rules, but also be easy to stumble through and drag down the pace even further. And as the game drags on, it's easy to start noticing all the other little problems it has. The platforming is muddled by the need to use every graphical effect the Unreal Engine provides, with poor separation between the foreground and background at times, making it ambiguous what's a foothold. Gunplay has great feedback, but enemies failed to do more than slow me down as I stood in one place to clear them from my path. There's an impressive looking melee attack, but it often fails to kill even the weakest enemies and obscures the view, which meant I often took damage because I couldn't tell if they were dead or not. Each of these problems increased the chance that I'd misjudge a jump or a fight, and brought me closer to having to redo another 15 minutes or more of platforming while listening to the same tired old one-liners. Maybe it's fitting for the studio whose previous mediocre throwback failed to secure the Duke Nukem license, but Rad Rogers feels like a juvenile effort that would have felt tired 10 years ago. It's a tiresome game that feels reliant on exploiting nostalgia as much as something like Bubsy, the Woolies Strike Back. But here's the thing, it absolutely worked. Even given these flaws, Rad Rogers has managed to hold a pretty positive reputation, at least going by the reactions on the usual PC gaming communities. For a lot of people, this tepid, mediocre game evoked memories of the games they enjoyed to make Rad Rogers a positive experience. And you know what? That's fine. But why is it that otherwise unnotable games like Bubsy get people so mad, and games like Rad Rogers have their flaws completely overlooked? In short, Rad Rogers flatters the ego of a gamer. It has no core identity, but it gestures towards other games to distract from that. It uses references as a reward. It wants you to go, "Hey, I got that reference," and feel like you're in on the joke. References are supposed to be entertainment in of themselves. In other media, there's this thing called an allusion. It's a call to another work outside of the fiction, and it's often used to draw situational and thematic parallels that enhance the narrative. Video games are too insecure for allusions. They're so scared that you won't get it that they have to explicitly call out the reference, and then often they do nothing with it. Maybe that reflects something about the way that we engage with games? After all, how can we expect deep literary use of allusions when our understanding of games' history is so shallow? Too often we seek the nostalgic comfort of our childhood in new media, and gloss over other elements that made the original material great. We say, "Hey, this looks like Commander Keen," or "Hey, this reminds me of Zelda," and that's good enough for us. I used to have a roommate who would earnestly return to the original Bubsy every once in a while. He didn't think it was a good game, but it reminded him enough of good childhood memories to make it worth revisiting. And if the function of nostalgia like this is to evoke those memories and return you to that time, then maybe a new Bubsy game would have provided the same thing that throwbacks like Rad Rogers do. Or to put it another way, Bubsy probably deserves as serious a look as B's games.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh no. What did I get myself into?